Hey group, we are in chapter 5 of our student development theory readings, and this week we're focusing on the stage theories and other linear models of racial and ethnic identity. We have 3 readings this week, 1 article on Kodama, don't know about the pronunciation of that, an Asian American experience on psychosocial student development theory, which is actually referenced in chapter 14 at the beginning in the Evans book, which was a big experience and a big event that took place in post-secondary education on the college campus. And then we also have 2 chapter readings from Harper and Quay, chapter 10 and 11, engaging racial and ethnic minority students in out-of-class activities at a predominantly white institutions. And chapter 11 is engaging white students on multicultural campuses, which is kind of flips the script of chapter 10. Then we also have 2 readings from Evans' book, chapter 14 and 15. Chapter 14 focusing on racial identity development, and chapter 15 focusing on ethnic identity and acculturation. Chapter 14, I'm going to start off by chapter 14 and 15 in your Evans book. And what I really found in reading, which it was some in-depth reading in some of it, several theories, several models were introduced and talked about, and some we've already heard of, like Chickering's. But what I found a commonality is that most theories covered, especially in the Evans book, had some type of crisis and commitment in their stages or status level, where identity was by a racial or ethnic minority was either questioned or it was either questioned or really examined by that race, and then it was embraced, which brings the crisis and commitment. So what do you guys think about this? Did you notice that in your readings? The social identity development is the common theme in both of the chapters in Evans, chapter 14 and 15, and which is the process by which people come to understand their social identities. Chapter 14 focused on the racial identity, which uses concepts of race as a social construction and the tenets of the critical race theory as precursors to an examination of racial identity development theories. So it uses both of these concepts as precursors to examine the racial identity development theories. And the critical race theory, its underlying, it basically says the privilege and oppression are embedded in racial identity. The racial and cultural identity development theory by Su and Su is the foundation in chapter 14 for understanding the stages and orientation found in other identity development models. So they really use that as the foundation of starting out. And the Cross and Fagan-Smith model of black identity development is talked about in great detail. There's several different aspects it goes into when reading this. And it's also the best known theory for psychological nagriants, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, nagriants, which is the process of becoming black. And it's very interesting. When I found this very intriguing when I was reading this, like I said, it's very detailed. There's 4 stages of nagrescence, the nagrescence model, with 3 central concepts and 3 patterns. And in those 3 patterns are 6 sectors encompassing all 3 patterns. Chapter 14 focuses on the ethnic identity and acculturation as experienced in the U.S. society. The ethnic identity has an internal component about how individuals see themselves, as well as an external component that include active involvement. Acculturation refers to the process by which members of an ethnic minority group adopt a dominant culture on which they come in contact. Chapter 14, the ethnic identity, really it focuses on two primary models. One by Feeney, the model of ethnic identity formation, and it's defined as a multicultural construct involving ethnic feelings, attitudes, knowledge, and behaviors. Torres's model of Hispanic identity development, it looks at the concept of ethnic identity and acculturation to Native American Indians and Asian Americans, and the ethnic identity of Black, African American, specifically Caribbean culture identity. So it has, it really breaks down into more ethnic groups. And as far as these models and what they can help us as student affairs professionals, we can use this in field, and the faculty as well at post-secondary institutions who work with students who view their ethnic heritage as very different. We can work with them, and it helps us to understand factors that contribute to their ethnic identity and acculturation. So it helps us help them and help view them, when we work with them in our student affairs professions. Harper and Quay is, I really spent a lot more time, I felt like, really reading this because, of course it covered chapter 10 seemed like it covered many theories, and it went more in depth. To me, it seemed that way anyway. But chapter 10 in your Harper and Quay book looks at socially engaging racial and ethnic minority students in out-of-class activities at predominantly white institutions. And it really does a good job of breaking down it looks at the barriers to engagement, and then it looks at the framework, the theories behind this, and then some strategies that we can help, again, as student affairs professionals. So with the predominantly white, with the barriers, it looks at, it really focuses on the active engagement is essential for student development, satisfaction, and success. And it looks at the barriers for racial and ethnic minorities and how what happens at the post-secondary institutions and what are the barriers. So the student's experience, it really focuses on 6 unique challenges that their racial and ethnic minorities face. 1, cultural climate, and 2, culturally exclusive environmental norms. 3, overwhelming whiteness. 4, racial and ethnic organizations. 5, academic preparation. They feel ill-prepared when they get to college. And 6, utilization of campus support services. Most of the time, they just don't know what's available when they get to the campus. So that focuses on the 6 barriers for racial and ethnic minorities and the barriers to them participating in and out-of-class activities, because it is essential to their student development growth. Then it goes into highlighting the 3 frameworks, and the frameworks all have the ability to interrelate in a purposeful manner when looking at racial and ethnic minorities in their development and in their activity, their participation in out-of-class activities. It goes into Aston's theory of student involvement, which is the most important of the social development theories for minorities. It's necessary for understanding in and out of classroom development. It's non-linear, and its involvement refers to what students actually do, not what they think, feel, or how they make sense of events. It's how students spend their time. And he goes into great detail about his 5 postulates. Finney's model of ethnic identity deals with 3 step progressions of ethnic identity, and it's more generic and broad in range of ethnic application. It doesn't focus on one specific ethnicity. And then the third development theory is the social identity development theory, and it helps in understanding minority students' perspectives in developing training and teaching modules. And then, of course, engagement strategies, the first year, 15, they help gain knowledge and confidence. And it's not a big confused the freshman 15 that I know I experienced. But there's some really good engagement strategies for engaging of racial and ethnic and things that we can do, especially when we get into our student affairs professional fields. And so this is what I ask you guys. In chapter 11, it talks about engaging white students on a multicultural campus, which kind of flips the script of, it really looks at what white students have to invest and how they can, and their challenges to engaging white students in multicultural programming. Why do white students hesitate to engage in multi-campus programming? It looks at the lack of exposure in different racial and ethnic groups. They just may have not been exposed to it when they were younger. Confronting racism instead of hiding from it or not wanting to talk about it, confronting it. White privilege, which is a system of advantages that benefit the dominant group, and institutional barriers to white engagement. It takes more than individual intervention. It's not enough. It's going to take a whole institution. And then the theories that it focuses on are the white racial identity development by Helms, and it really goes into a lot of depth as well. The theory of psychosocial development by Chickering, and it focuses on the 7 vectors and the progression through that, but it really focuses on the 4th vector and the developing mature interpersonal relations and deconstructive whiteness, and then engagement strategies. Like I said, there was a lot of theories to cover. But my question to you is, in looking at all this, how do you guys feel that Valdosta State University's campus culture responds to multicultural needs and demands of students? Have you had specific experiences that have shaped your opinion in such views? Also, does VSU participate or implement any first-year 15 engagement strategies that you have experienced personally or that you've heard about? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. I know this was a long vlog, but it just seemed like there was a lot to cover this week in our readings, and a lot of theories and models, and so just food for thought, and happy vlogging. Thanks.